Hello athletes, Coach Ryder from DHP Health and Fitness. Today we're going to go over increasing your range of motion for your thrusters. Thrusters are one of those exercises in CrossFit that are feared by many athletes, not necessarily because of the weight, but because of the range of motion and the control of your body that it takes to be able to move through that motion efficiently. So we're going to go through 5 different mobilities today, all in a nice little series going to help you increase the range of motion, be able to move through that movement a little easier, save a little energy, and have a little bit less soreness when you're done with that exercise. We're going to go through some hip flexion and rotation in a banded pigeon. We're going to do some ankle flexion with distraction, a little thoracic spine extension, one of everybody's favorites. We're going to go through a banded front rack in a low position with an external bias to the arm, and wrist forearm extension. So for these exercises today, we're going to need a rig or some kind of vertical column to hook a band up to. You can see I have the band in a nice low area down here. I also have myself set up with a 45-pound plate or something a couple inches off the ground for you to step onto, as well as a foam roller to use as well. So first what we're going to go through today is going to be our hip flexion rotation. Exercise that I really like to do with this is a banded pigeon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step my foot into the bands, and I'm going to bring this band up way, way high on my leg. So I'm going to be kneeling down with it as high up into my hip crease as I can possibly. My other knee is on the floor, and from here I'm going to fold this leg over. Right? So you can stay up high on it like if you want, if your range of motion isn't too good, or if you have a really nice range of motion, you can get yourself down low. What I really want to have happening here is, if you can see, I'll move back a little bit, my hip is being pulled towards the band, towards the rig, which is really good because I'm going to have a bias to my hip being drawn out and pulling me deeper into that stretch. So as I go through this range of motion, there's a couple different things I want to be doing. I want to try to keep the shin as 90 degrees as possible. I don't want it underneath me. So I want to kind of even with my shoulders as much as possible. And the other leg as flat out behind me. We don't want to be turned on our side with our knee facing forward. We want that knee straight down below underneath you. If you'd like, you can support your weight on your hands. And from here, we're going to bring the hips up and down. This is typically the first one I do for 8 or 10 pulses. I'll squeeze my butt as I come up and relax it as I go deep into it. Remember, this band should always have tension on, especially when you're down. If you're down and it starts to slack out, you're missing the benefit the band's giving you. That band should be pulling you down deeper into that stretch than you normally would be able to go. After I do 8 to 10, straight up and down like this, I'm going to start to do my forward bows. I'm going to go over my knee 8 to 10 times, coming up and down. And then I'm going to turn my bias over towards my toes now and go 8 to 10 times over my toes. My body weight is being supported on my hands. After my 8 to 10 this way, I'm going to come down and rock back and forth between these two. If you notice, as I come down, my butt's getting lower to the floor in this position. As I come forward, I'm keeping it there and then coming up and sinking back down again. It's going to help you get into a much deeper squat, allowing your body to stay up nice and tall, engage more of your glutes and your quads in your squat, give you a much better framework and foundation. And then I finish off again by 10 more, just kind of butt back down to the floor, trying to back it up a little bit. If you do one side, make sure you switch and do the other side as well. You can come up in between and give yourself a test, retest in between each side. Give yourself a squat down, see how that side tracks out. Should feel a little nicer, a little easier. Next we're going to do is ankle flexion. We're going to keep the foot in the band just as well. Let's step the foot onto the plate and bring that band down as low on that ankle as possible. Ideally, it should be underneath the tongue of your shoe, down by your ankle bones. What we're going to do for this one is we're going to step that foot as far onto that plate as we can comfortably. We're going to kick that other leg out behind us so my body weight is directly over my thigh. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to press my body into my thigh and try to get my shin to touch my toes. Secret here is to not allow that ankle to come up. I want my heel to stay nice and firmly on the floor, so I'm really working, opening up that lower ankle, increasing more ankle mobility, stretching out that Achilles tendon, and allowing my knee to come further over my toes. It's going to open up the back of that ankle, while this band is pulling that shin bone back, creating a little shearing force, giving you more space, stopping those bones from jamming into each other. So if you're one of those people that, hey, I can't get into a squat without my heels coming off the ground, this might be your limiting factor. This is a great technique to open up those hips, open up the ankle, and allow yourself to get into a deeper squat. And like I said, we're going to use our body weight to press down on top of that knee and push ourselves into that position a little deeper. We can even use the plate to pull ourselves in as well too. And again, come on up nice and slow and easy. You want to give yourself a little ankle mobility and see how one side feels compared to the other side. You'll notice a drastic difference. Next will be our thoracic extension. This is a really, really fun one. Could be a foam roller involved with this one. Again, the band's going to stay down in that low position, about ankle height. I'm going to lay myself down so the foam roller is just underneath my shoulder blades. I'm going to look back over my head. I'm going to grab this band. I'm going to get two nice fistfuls of that band. While that foam roller is under my shoulder blades, I'm going to start to rock. If I notice the band's coming out of tension, easy thing to fix. Roll yourself up a little higher so that the roller is on the lower part of the back. Grab higher on the band and come back down. So here we're getting a little overhead distraction. My arms are being pulled up overhead in the top of that extended position. And my key thing is I want to try to get my lower back and my butt down to the floor and let my head droop also. And now from here we can change our position a little bit, go a little lower, choke up a little tighter on that band, take some more of that slack out, and drop myself down again. So as you can see here, it's really getting my thoracic spine open up high. If I was in a nice squat, this would be a really tall upright shoulder position with a really, really good overhead position as well. So this is great for your overhead squats. This is great for your snatch. This is also great for any of your overhead presses or your thrusters. Just hanging out, let that band pull us. And we come on out. Just gonna let go of the band, give yourself a little bit of roll out while you're here. Wake that body up. Bring that roller up and sit yourself on up out of that position. It's a great one for making sure that we're not leaning forward. It'll open that chest up, open those shoulders up, and get a great overhead position. Next, one of my personal favorites. This is our front rack. Little tricky thing we're gonna do here when we grab this band. We're gonna put our hands through. A lot of times, we grab palm forward this way. What we're gonna do today is I'm gonna reach around and I'm gonna have the back of my hand grab. What it's gonna do is gonna allow this band to mimic as if it was a barbell in my hand. So again, a lot of times we'll grab this way, right? And it comes around the back of our hands, through the palm and the fingertips. Today we wanna switch that around. You can isolate that here and just bring your back of your hand down and grab over the thumb. So what this is gonna do now is when I step in, and I can bring myself up in that front rack, this band is now in the same position that my hand would be holding that barbell across my chest. So key things here, we want to make sure we're supporting this elbow so it doesn't overly rotate out to the side. Keeping our elbow nice and high, allowing this hand to be pulled towards the rig, away from our body as I pull myself out, maintaining my midline down. I don't want to be bending. Keep that midline nice and tight. Support that elbow up high. Give yourself a little rock away. Bring that elbow up and down as well. Trying to keep the hand outside the shoulder. We don't want that hand here. If we're here, whoopsie, if we're here, it's gonna be not a good position. We wanna have that arm being biased out to really represent a good front rack position with the hand outside the shoulder, elbow up towards the horizon. Oh man, I broke the whole board. Don't tell the boss. All right, so put that back up there. And the last one we have here is our wrist and forearm extension. Again, with the band down here, it's a really nice one to help us get that forearm flexibility to hold that front rack. All we're going to do here is put the hand into that band. We're gonna walk the fingers forward, and we're gonna sit here. Again, this band's gonna add a shearing force, pulling that forearm back as we're reaching our hand forward like so. Bringing the shoulder from behind the wrist, over the fingertips. Behind the wrist, over the fingertips. Behind the wrist, over the fingertips. We can go side to side here as well a little bit. Rocking back and forth. We'll articulate those tiny little bones in the wrist and hand. Let them shift into looser, better positions. We can walk the hand back out. If you'd like, you can turn the hand around as well. Come forward. This one, I like to bring the band up a little higher and use it to actually help me get into a deeper stretch. It can go as high up as to your elbow if you'd like. And again, back and forth here. And this is going to mimic, again, getting that wrist into that nice, fully extended position here. All right, so we went through hip flexion and rotation with that banded pigeon. We did ankle flexion on top of the plate. We did thoracic spine extension over the foam roller. We did our front rack with that switched grip, holding that hand outside the shoulder, opening up that shoulder, getting that bone to externally rotate in that upper arm. And then our wrist and forearm extension to help our wrist be able to hold that bar in a little better position. So check these out, go through them. You can try all of them on one side and then compare how weird your body feels compared to the other side, or go hip, hip, ankle, ankle, all up to you. Just make sure you do both sides and leave some comments and feedback on the comment section below as to how you found your range of motion and performance to increase because of these little tips. Enjoy.